What made you decide now was the time to step away?
So I'm going to go back in history, which is only 5 years ago, and just talk about what I came to DART to do. The first thing is that when I came to DART, I came here to help the organization transition from a capital construction-based organization to focus more on operations. Obviously, DART has always been an operating organization, but we were in a period of time when we were getting to the end of our capital construction, big expansion, big build out, and we needed to really focus on the operation and become a really excellent operator. And so I came to DART to do that, to focus on the customer experience, to make our operations work well for the customer. And so over the last 5 years, I've spent a lot of time putting things in place to help us set that foundation. And so I feel like that has been accomplished. And so as I look at the tea leaves for the future, I think it's a good time for me to make a transition for the benefit of the organization as well as for myself. I think it's really important. I think a lot of leaders out there, leaders of big organizations, we all recognize that the changes in leadership are a natural evolution, and organizations also evolve. And sometimes you have to look for the right moment when your departure won't really disrupt things as much as they could if you had left at a different time. And for me, now that we've gotten to a point where some of the withdrawal elections have been rescinded, there are some agreements in place. I think people feel a lot more comfortable right now with where DART is in the community, in the region. And so for me, that's the best time to go, is when things have settled down a bit.
It's still a really fragile time for DART, though. Mm-hmm. So when you step away with this much in flux, does that worry you?
It doesn't from an organizational perspective, because over the last 5 years, we've laid the foundation for DART staff to know exactly what they need to do. And I think that the DART staff, as well as what we call the Leadership Roundtable, which is our executive team, everyone is set up for success here. Everybody knows what their job is. Everybody knows the outcomes we're trying to achieve. We're all aligned on those outcomes. And I think, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I sometimes say that this organization can run on autopilot if it needs to. And that's why I feel comfortable leaving, is because I have a lot of confidence in the organization and the employees here. I know that they're really talented and they're dedicated, and I know that they can carry this organization through the next chapter.
When exactly did you decide?
That was also an evolution. So I can't pinpoint any one particular day where I actually just decided. It's been something I've been mulling over in my head. To be honest, anytime you enter an organization, it's not like from day one you think about your exit, but over the course of your tenure at an organization, you always have to be looking at the landscape around you and deciding when a good time to leave is, because you never want to leave when the agency is really in turmoil, right? We've just gone through a very tumultuous period. Things, like I said, things have settled down a bit now. So if I was going to make a change, this would be the time to do it. And of course, certainly my contract was going to be up for renewal. And, I had to decide also, do I want to stay, or do I want to try something different? And so for me, there's that opportunity for me to consider, do I want to commit another term of my contract, or do I think it's time for me to try something new? And for me, it's not that I jump around a lot, but for me, I think, I think that it's important to think about, what's next for me, because I'm starting to get in the later part of my career. I'm more seasoned now, and so I want to start to do some other things that I find to be the most impactful for the community.
I know a lot of people want to know, was there any outside influence in this?
There was not. I mean, other than just, the normal outside influence, like talking to mentors and working through the thought process and things like that, so no.
And then I know you described this as one of the most challenging periods in transit history. What was the hardest part of leading DART?
The hardest part about leading DART through this period is, I think, the constant sort of negotiation on and I'm not talking about negotiation with cities, right? I'm talking about the negotiation on DART's role and the value that DART brings to this region. I think a lot of people, either they don't understand or they maybe feel like, DART is one of those things, kind of like a lot of government, like nobody really wants to talk about it or pay attention to it, but when it doesn't work, it's a big deal. And so, during my tenure, I've spent most of my time trying to figure out how we not become a big deal to people, right? We want to serve people well. And so, trying to balance our attention on, as I said earlier, our operation and making the operation as excellent as it can be, while we have other forces trying to grab our attention, that part has been challenging because, within the organization internally and with the employees, we've been very focused on what we need to do. Again, we have our Point B strategic plan. It lays the groundwork for everything that we need to do over the next 10 years to be really good at what we do, and we've been trying to do it. And so, again, we've done a lot of internal work to make ourselves better, and so when you get distracted, that becomes quite a challenge. I often tell people what I learned from a mentor of ours. There are 3 reasons people fail. One is they don't know what to do. The second is they don't know how to do it. And the third is something gets in the way. And in our case, some things were getting in the way of us moving forward more quickly.
How much of the criticism DART has faced do you think was fair?
Well, of course, I'm the CEO of DART, right? So I think the way I would explain it is that a lot of the rhetoric around the value of DART are things that are easy for people to believe about government. But I would invite anyone to come into our house and talk to our employees and talk to our customers. And, is DART perfect? No. But the truth is that there are so many people within DART who are so committed to the community and so committed to the mission that DART represents that, I think people perhaps aren't really, they're not aware of how much DART tries to do and how few resources we actually have. I know a lot of people are like, wow, they have a 1% sales tax. That's a lot of money. But when you're trying to maintain 93 miles of light rail, 476 or 500 buses in divisions and keep everything moving all the time, when you're also dealing with growing congestion on the streets and highways, which buses have to compete against, that is a tall order. And people ask me all the time, why can't we have what Europe has? And my answer is always, you can, but you have to be willing to fund it and you have to be willing to stand up for it. And so, and we've seen actually through this process of the cities holding withdrawal elections that people are willing to stand up for DART, which is really heartening and wonderful. And I hope that it continues and I hope it grows because the advocacy for public transportation, I think, is always something that needs to be available so that it's not always just DART fighting the fight.
What do you think this fight from member cities is really about?
So the fight from member cities, in my mind, was really about revenues and the downward pressure that cities are feeling from the state legislature, who is regularly attacking property tax. So of course, with our cities, their revenues are more diversified than DART's are. They have property tax, they have sales tax, probably some other revenues from other sources. But when you rely on both property tax and sales tax, and then one of those sources starts to dwindle and go away, then you start to rely more heavily on sales tax, right? So, well, the cities that are part of DART, their sales tax goes, 1% goes to the city and 1% goes to DART. That was also a decision made by the state legislature. So it's natural, I think, for cities to say, well, shoot, we need more revenue, and DART takes up 1% of our sales tax authority, so why not get the money from DART? Is that the right thing to do? Well, that's in the eye of the beholder. And what I would say about that is that it's very easy to try to move money from one entity's bottom line to another organization's bottom line. But if you're just moving money around, you're not increasing the total pot. And the total pot increasing is really where we need to be because everyone needs more revenue. And I understand the taxpayers, want to see value for the money that gets invested in DART and other governmental organizations. So that's on us. It's on us to demonstrate that value and to deliver on the promise that we have to them.
Do you think DART gave up too much to keep some of those member cities in?
DART gave up a lot. I don't know if I can say too much or too little. I think what will happen is we will see the effects of this as we start to look at the budget for the coming years.
How concerned are you about what comes next with the 3 cities that still have the measure on the ballot?
Obviously concerned because those cities still represent a good portion of the revenue that DART collects. And so, we don't take any of the cities for granted. I think it's important for DART and for the whole community to understand that even losing one city would be very destructive. And so it's, again, we have to rely on the voters.
Taking a reflective look at your time here, what are you the most proud of?
Oh, how do you pick one? I'm really, really proud of where this organization has come. Again, focusing on the transformation from a capital construction focused organization to an operating organization. That was a really important transition. I think obviously we're continuing to work on that. Our Point B strategic plan was a huge lift. We were very thoughtful about it. We really wanted to create a strategic plan that helped people understand what we were trying to do for the community, and that's providing a really quality service, a really great network of connected services, trying to empower our staff so they can deliver on that promise, trying to be more, trying to do more for our communities in economic development and creating fantastic spaces for them, building the relationships so that we can actually deliver on all of those things. I think the strategic plan, more than anything else, set that foundation. And even though the results of the strategic plan and the outcomes won't be seen for several years, what it did for our organization internally was align us around those common outcomes. And that was so important. Again, very esoteric and unseen, but so critical because what people probably don't know is that our team understands what we're trying to achieve as a group, as an organization, and we're going to get there.
If you look back on these past 5 years and you could do one thing over again or redo one thing, what would it be?
That's a hard one. If I could do one thing over again? I'm not really sure. You stumped me. That's a funny question to me, and the reason that I hesitate so much about that is because I get asked all the time, what would you change about your career if you could do something different? And I always say I wouldn't change one thing because if I did, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so it's hard for me to say I would do something really differently. Do I wish some things had happened differently? Probably. But I feel like I did what I needed to do, and I stayed true to who I am. So my advocacy of DART and the advocacy of the writers is what I do, and I don't, I'm not I'm pretty candid about when I think people are going off track. Yeah. No pun intended.
So any regrets?
No. I was talking to a group this morning, and I was telling them how when I was being recruited for this job, I kept trying to put the recruiter off because I was like, I'm not moving to Dallas. But the truth is that I fell in love with DART when I got here, and I fell in love with the people who work here. And I feel very, I'm going to get choked up. I feel really honored and privileged to have had a chance to come here and do this work because it's important work. And DART is so important to the community, and I hope that the community does come to a point where we all realize that and actively support DART.
What unfinished business do you feel like you're leaving behind?
Well, of course, the strategic plan, right? Everything that's in there, everything, from customer experience strategy to our security strategy to our transform program. Again, everything that we've done, that we've sort of launched or established and set the groundwork for, those things are unfinished, so to speak, but they're also long-term investments, and they're big cultural transformations that I think are really important. That once we get to the point where we have that momentum, those things will take care of themselves. But it takes a lot to establish those pieces and to for lack of a better term, to indoctrinate everyone in the organization to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. But and those things are technically unfinished, but again, we established them, and so now all the elements are in place, the components are in place to make them happen.
What advice do you have for whoever is going to step into this role next?
Remember the people. This is a focused organization, not just the employees, but also the customers. I think it's really important to remember that the people are the ones who are making everything happen at DART, and they should be valued and promoted and honored.
I have like 3 more questions.
Okay.
The first one, peel back the veil a little bit for us for the legislative fight. What was that like? How hard was that?
The previous one?
Yeah.
Or the one we're preparing for?
The previous one.
So that was challenging. I mean, as you've probably seen play out in the media and even all the discussions about withdrawal elections, there's a lot of rhetoric out there about whether people get value out of DART and whether DART is efficient or whether DART is doing the right thing. Is DART providing the right services? And I think that was one of the bigger challenges, is trying to talk to people who are not experts, not subject matter experts about transit, about how transit works and why it matters. And so those I think are some of the biggest challenges that we have, probably in the state of Texas, if not in the entire country. In my mind, it's about, do we want to increase people throughput on our streets and highways, or do we want to increase vehicle throughput? And when you want to increase people throughput, then you have to really focus on using mass transit, because a bus has the capacity to carry 50 people, and 50 single occupant cars take up a lot more space than one bus. And so as we think in the future about how we want people to move around and how much land we want to dedicate towards mobility, I think, leveraging DART, leveraging buses, leveraging trains, leveraging microtransit and shared rides is going to be critically important, because our region cannot stand to come to a halt because there's just far too much congestion.
And then obviously you've got a lot of critics. DART has a lot of critics. What do you feel like people still misunderstand about your leadership here and your vision for DART?
I think so this is not uncommon, I think, in our political environment generally, and this has nothing to do with political party, but I think our society is accustomed to immediate gratification, and things like the Silver Line took many years to build. Things like in any of our economic development or our transit-oriented development programs, any of those developments take many years to achieve. And so a lot of times when you go to a ribbon cutting or groundbreaking and you ribbon cutting, I guess, but when you go to a ribbon cutting and you look back on what it took to actually cut the ribbon, you realize how long infrastructure takes to actually implement or to build. And then beyond that, I think we kind of forget sometimes that in addition to building this infrastructure, you got to maintain it, right? Years of disinvestment across the board, and you've heard it in a lot of different contexts here in North Texas, but years of disinvestment, which wasn't the fault of employees of any organization, right? But it was just the lack of resources invested in the infrastructure, which now leads to more investment in recapitalization and rehabilitation. Those things are really important for people to understand, because it's kind of like your house. I always liken things to house analogies, because if you don't repair your leaking roof, but you're thinking about building an addition on the house, you're probably not spending your money in the most the wisest possible way. So you've got to take care of your house first, and then when you have enough money, you build on it. But I think the investment in rehabilitation and recapitalization is critically important. And this goes back to what I refer to a lot at DART as pride in the brand, right? So if I look at the North Texas region and the Metroplex, what is the brand for the Metroplex, right? If we want to be world class or whatever it is that we want to be, how do we promote that brand? By investing in our infrastructure and investing in the quality of the services that we receive from governmental organizations, the quality of our schools. Those investments are so important because it says everything about how the community feels about education, transportation, all of those things that I think are critical to quality of life. And so, if we want people to see North Texas as a great place to live and a great quality of life, we got to make those investments, and that takes sacrifice from everybody.
you got the highs of, the Silver Line, restructuring the bus system, even getting some of those cities to, pull back their May ballot or their May elections on leaving DART. How does that feel?
It feels good. I think there are a whole host of accomplishments that I can point to that make me feel good about my tenure at DART. But I think because it's not about me, it's about, what have we done for the community? I really hope that people will look at the time that I was here and be proud of where DART has come. One of the biggest things that I'm proud of here that is fairly esoteric is just that we were able to reduce missed trips from 15% to less than 1%. And that doesn't seem like much to most people, but what it means to an individual who's waiting for the bus means that that bus does actually come. And so it makes me feel good that we got to a point where we understood not only how to deliver and fulfill all the services that we schedule, but we also learned how to recover if something goes wrong, because things happen on the system every day, and we have to figure out how to put in a bus bridge when something is disrupting our tracks, and then take down the bus bridge and get the service back up and running. When there's congestion or an accident, we get a rescue bus out there quickly to get everybody to their destination. Those are the little things that people don't even notice because people expect reliability, but now we're delivering on that reliability.
Is there anything you feel like I'm missing? Do you want to add anything I haven't asked you about?
Really, I think I said this earlier, but DART has so much promise and so much potential in this region, and I firmly believe that DART is going to continue to succeed, and I hope that the people of the region recognize that and value it and support it and promote it and make it all happen.
Are you going to miss it?
I'm going to miss it, yeah. It's hard not to miss an organization that you spent 5 years developing and growing.